few things that have changed on Twitch since the last time I used it. God damn it. I'm gonna stay put camera. I knew it was a bad idea trying to set up a postcode camera. It's okay, I'm waiting for 3 Mark to extract anyway. Damn it. Surprisingly hard to point the camera at the right direction. And for it to not move around as the desk moves and stuff. I should leave the reflection in as well, you know, for a little bit of artistic license. How about that? What's the postcode? B6 or 36? We'll never know. Okay, installing 3D Mac. This feels a bit odd because I haven't done it in so long. First, very important, is to pour a little bit of Reckless Brewing double cherry sour. It's been that kind of day. Hopefully I can still remember how to pour a beer. That might be a useful skill to have. How's everyone doing? It's a very rare Tuesday night stream, but this is the only time I could manage. Gonna go see Dune on the weekend, Sunday. So this is Picasso. Does anyone even remember what Picasso is or was? Do we call this a beer? Or is that just marketing? Is it actually not a beer? Still installing. Man, I'm rusty. When was Alder Lake launched? Like middle of October or something? And yet, I still don't remember how to do any of this. I must be getting old. Even more worryingly, I don't remember how to post on Facebook. Should I add to story? Is that how it works these days? Picasso. Oh, this old trick. Okay, so somehow it manages to be humid even though it's cold. Good old Sydney weather. So in my nice little stream list of the last 116 streams, I think it's hey Mick, you're the first to join. I haven't streamed in so long, I'm so rusty. I'm sure some others will come along. It is, after all, still a little bit early European hours. Yeah, so I bought, was it stream list? Yeah, there we go. That URL is probably broken, even though it's supposed to last forever. Let's try and follow it. Maybe I just need to migrate off of tiny.cc, whatever that is. Anyway, I'll just put it in chat. So in this giant list of all my streams, there's also a breakdown by CPU architecture mostly. I don't really keep too up to date with the 3D stuff. I don't stream as much of it. It's harder to keep track of and so on. Ooh, the tiny.cc actually does work, but it just took a really long time for me for some reason. But I do have a little bit of a sweet spot for APUs. And I think I'll do 5000 series at some point. It's still a bit expensive, and I don't like the fact that you have to buy, at least in Australia, you have to buy a pre-build to get a 5300G. That sort of rubs me the wrong way. But I think with how prices are developing with Alder Lake, I'll get a 5000 series. But all the way back in Livestream 28, I did a 2000 series stream, a 2400G stream, and yeah, that's 14 nanometer Zen non-plus based. And then there's what I'm gonna be benching today, which is the Zen Plus based APUs, 12 nanometer. But then there was a 4000 and 5000 series. 4000 series, so 2000, 3000 series were retail. 4000 series was OEM only and Zen 2. And then 5000 series is Zen 3 and retail, except that the 5300G doesn't seem to exist. I hope I got that somewhat right. I'll win Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, or answering that question someday. Does that show even still exist? So this is my rig. It is. In the past, I've owned I've even owned a B350 board and a couple of B450 boards, and they just suck ass. But I have been kindly lent from Bilco a B550 Master with a postcode display. It doesn't have inbuilt buttons. It doesn't have a clear CMOS button. That does rub me the wrong way in some regards. But it's a nice looking board. I want to do some 2D on it as well. Yeah, I mean, is it top tier? I mean, yeah, for APUs it would be. I mean, I have an Impact just behind me. I've been benching it. I mean, just messing around a bit on that recently, and I really like it. I don't know, I don't have many boards to compare it to, but maybe that old bit of common knowledge saying that B550 is better at memory overclocking is not true anymore on the newer BIOSes. I'm on the latest BIOS on the Impact now, and it really clocks RAM well. I think on 5th gen I did 4266 C12, which is probably just a stick limit, RAM limit. So yeah, I mean, it's not good at BCLK obviously, but if you have all the straps, and then Yeah, it's doing good Infinity. I mean, I can't, again, I don't really have anything to compare to. I haven't run 2D on the Master as of yet, but it seems like it clocks Infinity Fabric much better than at release as well. I think last year for a comp I ran it and I was sort of stuck at 4866 or something. But now I'm seeing like 2933 and 2000 on 5th gen. So man, 3D Mark is just getting bigger and bigger and more bloated, and it's not getting any better to compensate. But yeah, for APUs, it would probably be top tier. I did try booting a 7. Yeah, so the only things I haven't run it cold. So last Country Cup, I ran it. I tried to run it cold with a 5600X, and I just didn't want to do it. Third gen did really well. 5th gen, forget about it. I have sort of been trying to keep track of the forum thread on the HiRobot forums, and it appears as though people are doing good stuff on 5th gen with it now. But that is definitely a question mark, the whole cold bug thing, because on 5th gen, it just, I mean, saying that, I haven't run the same chip on another board, so maybe that chip really just had a really bad cold bug, but it was like a -90 cold bug or something. I haven't heard of any 5th gen having that bad of a cold bug. Yeah, so be interesting. The only thing is, when this was originally released, when did B550 come out? I suppose 3rd gen. It sort of did unofficially come with GTL and an extreme overclocking bias and stuff, but those don't work anymore in 5th gen. Like, it's too old of an AGSA to even like attempt to use. So the other aspect would be on this board. On APUs, you'll be fine because, I mean, not that necessarily my Ryzen knowledge is all that up to date. I'm mostly talking about 1st and 2nd gen here, but it tended to be that way back in the day when I was trying to run an X370 gigabyte gaming K7 or whatever it was called, even though it didn't have an extreme bias, it didn't have any of the extra volts, it didn't have GTL, I was still able to get to like -120 with it, which is roughly where the APUs will conk out anyway, no matter whether. There's always this sort of idea, oh, why not just use a DGPU and then do 2D on an APU and then you can full pot it? No, it's not. It doesn't seem to be that simple. I've done a few little tests on this. I was trying to run a DGPU that will run on the same driver as the iGPU, and then do the old trick of running display out from the DGPU while doing GPU Pi 4 GPUs on the iGPU. Doesn't seem to work anymore. I remember that working. I think 2400G I got it working. It's getting harder anyway because the current drivers, which would tend to be the fastest for something like compute on an iGPU that is relatively recent, don't work anymore with HT7970 and R929TXs and stuff. So it's sort of hard to find a DGPU that you'd be happy running as just your display out. And yeah, there's all these sort of complications. I really like the impact though, I have to say. You can just, I have it here. It's still got some parts missing. Let's do a launch product here actually. See how we go. What's the curse is always, do you have the latest sysinfo? How have you been keeping Mick anyway? Are you gonna bench a bit for Country Cup and stuff, or sysinfo UL? I don't want, why system info? Okay, so on our bench rate, oh, there's a 5.44 now. Wow. Okay, that's likely not to be up to date. I hate how the launch of 3D Mark now is really slow as well. Where's our sysinfo version? 5, yeah, 2 versions behind. Okay, not ideal, not ideal. Being busy? Oh yeah, you're like planning a wedding and stuff, right? How's that going in COVID times? No country cup. That's fair enough. I mean, it's not. It's really fucking hard competing every single year. Okay, we need a USB stick. So, what did I want to say? So, in the course of my fucking around with the impact, I came across this tidbit that so I was trying to basically check 2D efficiency in different OSs, and I did get Windows 7 running, which is getting harder and harder and harder, but I also got 8.1 and server running. But if you want to do something with Benchmade, which is becoming more and more the norm, in spite of certain issues with it, then you need a pretty up-to-date OS, to the point where how should I put this delicately, you would probably have to get a non-legal version of Windows 7 to be able to run Benchmade, because the only other option is updating the benching OS using Ethernet or Wi-Fi. And then you've got the whole problematic of, are there even still drivers for Win 7 for that board? I'm not saying that they aren't, but it's you're not going to be able to just go to the let's put it this way, you're not going to be able to just go to the official ASUS site and go select Windows 7 from a drop down, or 8.1. But I did find the 8.1 driver just by sort of searching the model string, and that was fine. I was able to then, with the Ethernet driver, run a full fat upgrade of that OS. That took an age, but I now have a totally up-to-date Windows 8.1, which I'd be sort of curious to see when the last update came out. So that's fine. So I've Benchmade working on 8.1. But interestingly, even though Server 2012 is based off of 8.1, it didn't like that driver for some reason. In fact, it didn't. Yeah, it's weird. The driver would install exactly the same way as on 8.1, but it didn't like turn it into a recognized device in Device Manager. Yeah, I don't really. I mean, I'm sure there's some way of debugging that, but shit. Where's my? Oh, God, I'm gonna have to type in. So in my Alder Lake bench session, I left behind. Mamma mia! I left behind my main benching USB key, which also has the 3D Mark keys to copy over and stuff, which I will obviously need here if I want to run. Mierda. Yeah, I know. Look, but my just fundamental problem with Benchmade is we are relying on Matt, and it doesn't matter how good of a programmer he is. He could be hit. I mean, I'm not wishing anything upon anyone here, but he could literally be hit by a bus tomorrow, and then what do we do with Benchmade? You know, it needs to be like open source. It needs to have multiple developers, and his counter to that would probably be, well, no one wants to work on it. It's, you know, whatever. But like, it doesn't matter how hard it is to bring about the conditions that are necessary. The conditions are necessary whether they're hard to bring about or not. You know, it's sort of beside the point. You know, if you can't get the level of, I don't really care if somebody steals my key. Okay, I'll do this. Hold on. Here we go. Man, this is old school. That's why I sort of feel like, I know people are going to disagree with me, but I feel like fundamentally there was no sort of point in starting Benchmade in the first place if it was going to be the way it is now, you know? So And I sort of my key doesn't work. That's what happens when you try to man. Okay, but I'm gonna have to enter the times. Hi, Shmomo. He does have a second developer, but I mean, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, sort of thing, you know. There've been some little run-ins here and there with Matt over the years that were enough to sort of make me doubt those sort of things, you know. It's sort of like, well, if enough people ask for a second developer, I'll just pretend that there is one, you know. I'm sorry to be so skeptical, but it's just in my nature, you know. I mean, I think that, you know, considering all the things that have happened over the years, with render file replacement in Cinebench, and people, you know, killing their chips on purpose in live comps, like there's just everything you can possibly think of, you know, imagine has happened in overclocking basically. So why is Skydiver not available? Include unsupported. Bam. Okay. GPU does not have enough VRAM. And yes, the argument for closed source is never security. If you're relying on your source code not being public in order for it to be secure, then it actually isn't. Now, that's not to say that, I mean, it's probably secure enough for the purposes that it's being used for, but I'm just saying in general, like in software development in general, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, and if needs be, if there really is something in there that is like sensitive for some reason or another, there is such a thing as partial closed source or partial open source. Like you could sort of module off a particular part that is sensitive and say, okay, that's really stable now, but we can't have anyone ever look at that code, or else we need to, you know, redesign it. And then that code can just keep on getting ported into new versions of Benchmade, and then the actual Benchmade, the, you know, like the interface, the compatibility of it, all the stuff that has nothing to do with security could be open source. Yeah, so Shmomo, today I'm doing a bit of APU benching on the B550 Master. I've done 2nd gen, I've done 4th gen. I will in the future do 5th gen APU benching, but 3rd gen was the missing link, and I haven't streamed in a few weeks since Alder Lake launch, which I think was mid-November. No, what are we at now? 30th of November. When the fuck was Alder Lake launch? 4th of Nov. Okay, so yeah, about 3 weeks or something I haven't streamed. So what's the max allocated VRAM again for APUs? Isn't it like 4G or something like that? I don't know. I mean, I still sort of feel like Benchmade is a solution looking for a problem sort of thing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Win7 is going away. So there is that AMD issue with the timers. But sort of like, I don't know what would be, I think that's a fail. I don't know what would be a, you know, a correct analogy, like, or a fitting analogy. It's like you're hungry and you could just make a sandwich, but instead you decide to open a restaurant and run it for 20 years, you know, and all you needed was just one sandwich. You know, that's what Benchmade is doing. All you're trying to solve is that one issue of Ryzen on Windows 7 or Windows 10, which I've made is getting bigger and bigger all the time. My hard, not enough RAM. Okay, hold on. Is there a stick missing or something? Ooh. I see. Okay, so what happened was I had remove mem set and for 3D or for 2D beforehand, which without an APU present, that would then equal like 2.8 gigabytes. But since the GPU like by default pre-allocates like 2 gigabytes, I ended up with only 800 megabytes of RAM. So I need to BCD edit set remove memory or just delete value remove memory. Okay, now just a cheeky little reboot. Yeah, and I haven't followed the whole CPU Z drama either. Oh, so this thing, in addition to having a LED, like a debug display, also has diagnostic LEDs. That's funny. They could have put the money for the diagnostic LEDs into a clear CMOS button. Well, there's a few different things going on. So basically, I think, should I be talking about that? Maybe not, but to an audience of two. I think there was like an alpha version of CPU Z which claimed to work around the issue with Alder Lake being able to validate really high, and then Gigabyte came back and said it's still bugged. And then there's this whole other thing about ASUS claiming that this one bias setting that they've got is like a solution to all your worries sort of thing. And from what I know, that's not the case either. So basically, it's funny. I mean, I don't know if you saw the post by Splave. You know, they put up like a 7.6 valid saying, oh, here's a real valid, you know, digging in against Gigabyte. But actually, to be completely like correct about it, I don't think any validation on Alder Lake right now is, you know, is actually, I mean, some of them might be legit, but there's no way of telling. From what I know, there's no way of actually telling if a validation is legit. The only way you can tell is by looking at the number and saying that number's too big or it looks too big. But there's no, as far as I'm aware, that's still the case, because I can slideshow. Unless they've released a new CPU Z, if it's still only 1.98, then to the best of my knowledge, yeah, that's still, you still shouldn't be allowed to validate Alder Lake on 1.98 from what I've heard. So there's that little bit of drama, you know, the whole fallout from Gigabyte 8 gigahertz. But there's also isn't there still that whole thing about them trying to enforce validated CPU Z only? Like for current gen Intel and AMD, they wanna, on Hyperball, want to reject unchecked validation. So that then I think means you can't use XOC mode anymore. I mean, not that I necessarily care too much about CPU Z valids. How's things down in Tassie, Shmomo? Still COVID 0, right? No Omicron down there. Oh, so I bought let's do a bit of a show and tell here. Last year, I ran PC Mark 7 4 Country Cup on this Impact. And fun fact, the way you do it is you put Optanes in this slot because it's an Impact and it's a small form factor board. But what happens then is you have clearance issues. So I had to take and just a tiny amount of clearance issue. So I had to take like these top 2 or 3 millimeters of a shield, IO shield type thing, like that stops you from putting your fingers in these two VRM fans. I had to take that off in order to be able to use Optanes, like M.2 Optanes in this slot. Still got the backplate on. The cool thing about this board is I've really grown to like it now, because what I do is, so the power button placement is a bit unfortunate over here, but everything else you need is actually on this side. So I sort of put it on the bench table and face it like that towards me. So I see the debug LED, BIOS flashback that I never use, clear CMOS, and reset. And then you just have your safe boot and retry down here. So you can sort of have it facing like this, and your right hand can easily get to retry. But then power button, I try to avoid you powering off completely, because the power button is like is an odd sort of reach around to the other side of the PCB. But that's really nice, because a lot of other boards, I mean, it's fine now because I'm streaming, but a lot of other boards have like the debug LED sort of behind the 24 pin and stuff, and it gets kind of awkward. You have to sort of like, you know, move around your head to be able to see debug. But here you have it like really like perpendicular, like parallel to your face, you know. So if you're doing a lot of memory clocking, this board is actually pretty sweet. The only thing on cold, of course, is your LN2 jumper is down here. So if you're running a display out GPU, that's actually enough to stop you from, I mean, if you got a little tweezers out, you probably would be able to do it, but odds are you have to like pull your GPU on cold on a small board anyway, where you might have a lot of insulation here and stuff, to be able to do and set and unset the LN2 mode. And you've got your slow mode down here as well. It's a really nice board. It's not mine. It's also on loan, but yeah, I might see if I can buy this, because the person who owns it isn't clocking Ryzen anytime soon. This just arrived from the Netherlands today. 3870 X2s from SERVD served, whatever that username. I know his real name, but I'm not gonna say that. But Harabot user served. So yeah, this whole thing, I want to get an Alder Lake DDR4 platform for 3D. But I'll have to be careful, because it has to have, I mean, it has to have an easy, like, ideally you would have to have a way of applying profiles just like the Tachyon does, because I want a profile with a button on the PCB that has CSM on, because these old GPUs will not post at all without CSM. And even with CSM, unfortunately, for whatever reason, Ryzen has better dual GPU compatibility in general than modern day Intel. But Alder Lake is an absolute monster for legacy 3D. So I'll have to try to get this kind of stuff working. And I got 2 cards, so I bought them off the Harabot forums. Identical PCBs. Not sure what the AIB is. I have a 3rd card from Popa as well. I can actually, and that's volt modded. So if I want to be adventurous, I can copy I think it's the same PCB for all of them. Copy the volt mods and put them on these 2 cards as well. Yeah, but even Ryzen, I think with I I bought a 5800X after the Alder Lake price crash for Ryzen. Even, like 05 should go okay on 5800X, but then the problem becomes, you know, what board, and should I even invest in a Ryzen board, you know, all that kind of stuff, because Intel is not showing any signs of slowing down. Raptor Lake will be nice too. 3400G, so 58 TSE is 588 525 GTs. Okay, let's actually go into BIOS. X299 is pretty good. So very, very, very roughly speaking, the last platforms to be good with legacy GPUs were the Apex 10, so like Z370 type. I don't know what the Apex 11 is like, but Z370 type deal, and X299. But yeah, once you go that far back, it becomes interesting. 3 micro 1 enhancement. Okay, what are we gonna do? Let's try 4.5 at 1.45. That sounds nice, doesn't it? I guess disable all that stuff. I don't even. So what's stock for 3800G, 3400G? Let's actually just have a little bit of a gander around this. But yeah, it's tricky. 29. What is the world coming to when what is the world coming to? Ooh, I have a score here. Let's try and beat our old score, eh? What's the world coming to when it's hotter in Tassie than it is in Sydney? Ah, that was LN2 2019. Barely remember that. Okay, so that's not a good thing to look at. Snegovic 1700 in water. Okay, let's try something like, I don't know, 1500 at 1.4. Just spitballing. Stuck on 28. Oh, maybe just a slow post. Slow post. Okay, well, 1200 at 1.35. Okay, I'm taking notes here. B550 master. Stock on 28 equals too much iGPU. It's quick to go into like a fail-safe mode though, so that's nice. Actually, the other thing I can do is I can go like 1.4, and because this is Zen Plus, right? We can't really expect too much out of these things. X295s are tricky to, but were you trying to do quad SLI? Because that's a totally different thing. I should probably install Ryzen Master. Don't think Ryzen Master necessarily gives iGPU control anyway, though. Let's do a little render test. Okay, so it is boosting up to what it's supposed to boost at. TSC is a nice quick test. And you've obviously tried the cards in a different board, yeah? GPUs are like 3D. The more I bench, the more I realize that 3D is messy. 3D is just so messy. There's so much that can go wrong. You know, 2D is like, yeah, okay, you can get a bad bin of a chip. You can kill a chip. You can have efficiency issues, but 3D is like, it's hard even to just get off the ground in 3D sometimes. Like, yeah, of course your mount deteriorates in 2D, but in 3D it's just like a whole other ball game. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to look at today was sort of seeking buying advice for DDR4 Alder Lake boards, because I want, oh, actually, there's a nice gallery shot for this board. Okay, so the overall screw that, premise of my question is, I wish to run a shit ton of legacy 3D through Alder Lake. I don't care if it's DDR4 or DDR5, it's not going to make a difference, or it's not going to make an appreciable difference at least. Therefore, I want a DDR4 board because I already have a kit, and DDR5 is out of stock everywhere, and it potentially would even be slower for legacy 3D. What goddamn board do you like? I just want a DDR4 Apex, but it's not going to happen, is it? So I heard some so of course Billzoid has a YouTube video on this because he has a video on everything, and his sort of recommendation is mostly around just get the MSI, you know, but it doesn't have buttons. It has PS2, that's nice. I'm also looking at the usable PCIe slots because I know that SLI is like, you can't really rely on any board being able to do SLI anymore because it's that whole licensing thing, and then you have to do the SLI hack, and I don't even know if that works on new chipsets anymore. But Crossfire, at least, I want to be able to run Crossfire. So 2 physical 16x slots that then go down to 2 8x slots signal wise is the absolute minimum I want, so I can run dual Crossfire and then like 3-way Crossfire if one of the cards is dual GPU. So that's the absolute minimum, is well spaced, 2 well spaced slots that end up being 8x when you actually use them. But the sort of stretch goal would be a third. I mean, it can be an 8x or a 4x slot that I just take the back out of, but a third, because Crossfire doesn't really care, right? A third slot that I don't know if this even exists, but ideally isn't fed from the chipset. A lot of boards have a third 16x physical slot. I think the MSI does. I don't actually know how the lanes are assigned here. I assume it's chipset, but that's one of the things that's attractive about the MSI is, so you've got really nice spacing up here. You potentially could even use this slot if you just get an X-Acto knife and take the end out of it. But then that's sort of relying a bit on the GPU being fine with a, whatever this is, a 4x slot, I think. But you've got your third physical 16x here, so then I can run quad Crossfire with dual single, which is still not, I mean, the absolute ideal board, of course, is 4 physical 8x slots or 16x slots. That's what X299 has, but the way things are looking now, especially on the Intel side, I don't know what AMD is doing with Threadripper, actually pretty much on both sides. The way things are looking now, HEDT is just not going to be a thing anymore, really. I mean, there are rumors out there that Intel is sort of working on a replacement to X299 finally, but it's going to be Xeon based. So that's not really benching relevant. And AMD, yeah, there's supposed to be Zen. There's not even a Zen 3 based Threadripper yet, is there? Like a 5000 series Threadripper. So AMD is not that far behind Intel with just getting rid of HEDT. And it makes sense because we have now, 32 thread and 24 thread top SKUs respectively. What's the point in HEDT anymore? And PCI Express 5.0 means you're sort of closing the gap as well a little bit in number of lanes and things, and just overall IO. That's just what I want. I mean, I just like I mean, I'm sure you've heard this from Billzot and other people as well, but like all Bencher really needs is a bunch of 2.0 USB ports, 2 times PS2. Once is fine as well, but ideally 2 times PS2. Dual 8 pins for the CPU, which is pretty much on every board now anyway. A power button, a reset button, a clear CMOS button, a debug LED, and that's it. But instead we get all these M.2 slots and stuff. But so there was some sort of a sub up on HyperBot where someone was doing 2D on this board saying that it wouldn't full pot, or it was really, really funny full potting. So that's the only reason I wouldn't get it. So 350 Aussie is great. Actually, the sort of real solution to my problem, I suppose, is the Strix. But a 600. The insane thing about the Strix is the DDR4 version of this Z690-A, which presumably the DDR5 version, if it's also called Z690-A, is pretty much equal spec to this. The DDR4 version is more expensive. You've got to see it to believe it. I mean, how in a million years could you, with a straight face as a manufacturer of PC components, put up listings for 2 separate boards that both do the exact same thing, one with an outdated DDR generation, one with the current one, and be like, yep, the worst one is more expensive. Okay, DDR4, Actually, I can't take that, but I can maybe just go high to low. So here you see that there we go. Proof. It's a prime. Okay, one is, but they look damn identical. One is marketed as being a prime and the other one's marketed as being a Strix. But I mean, they're both gray with too much armor and too much VRM. Okay, my mistake, guys. Anyway, yeah, so the issue is it's just, we have a run that's completed, and the graphics score is lower. Okay, let's up our game a little bit. Oh, cool. Is there threaded replying now in Twitch? I didn't know that. Yeah. So let's make a goddamn profile. Let's get serious. I have a lot to say about DDR4 and DDR5. 1 second. Let's try that again. So okay, global supply chain shortage, so we shouldn't be surprised about anything being in short supply, but supposedly, according to one source, the reason there's a DDR5 shortage is the so-called PMIC, the sort of like fully integrated voltage regulator on the. I mean, I want to call it a not a fiver but a piver, because if you think about it, so in Haswell the fiver means you have a digital voltage regulation in die on die, right? So that's a fiver. The voltage regulation on DDR5 isn't a fiver because it's not on the the actual memory IC, but it's on the same PCB. So in my mind, that should be called a piver, a partially integrated voltage regulator. But they call them PIMCs instead, whatever that stands for. I don't know. Acronym overload. But yes, so they claim that the shortage of that damn little dumb power regulation, voltage regulation chip is what's causing the overall shortage in. So that's boosting nicely. Overall shortage in DDR5. Okay. Well, at least I got the acronym right, PMIC. Which, it's kind of dumb, but it's the same. It's sort of the same level of like overall dumbness as we can't build cars because there's no ICs. Like, sort of half ironically, my reaction to cars being in short supply because of the global supply chain shortage of like dumb little power regulator chips and stuff is just build a car without ICs. I mean, I don't want that. I drive a 20-year-old car, so I'm the wrong person to ask, but I don't use ICs anyway. I mean, an engine can be like completely non-electronic basically, and the interior of a car can be too. I mean, the only thing that is sort of electronic is your radio, and you can bring your own radio, or you can just not use one. I don't know, just to my simple mind. Anyway, so I still so the follow-on question to that would be, why is the high bin DDR5 in low supply then? Because if it's truly the PMIC that, ooh, we have a crash apparently. Yeah, it's hard locked. Come on. Hi, Tyrant. If it's truly the PMIC that is the component that's in short supply, then my reaction to that would be, well, just only make high bin RAM. I mean, is it really like, not only, but like majority of the RAM should be high bin RAM, because what's the point in wasting PMICs on sticks that are like just, I suppose I'm answering my own question here. If PMICs are in short supply, and that then ends up, because of supply and demand, ends up being sort of the most expensive component, or relatively speaking the most expensive component on the DIMM, then it would make sense to make cheap RAM, because if everything's sort of determined by the supply of the PMIC and the cost of the PMIC, why not just, and that there's going to be a supply issue and people are going to be stuck with bad RAM sticks, like crap bin RAM sticks, then you may as well manufacture crap RAM sticks, because people will have to buy them anyway at like inflated prices. So what's the point? What's sort of the point of binning ICs at all, because you're going to be able to sell every stick you manufacture anyway. But the sort of counter argument would be, well, we want to sort of represent, or like we want to show DDR5 in a good light at launch, so people don't get the wrong impression about its capabilities. Wouldn't it overall for the like DRAM manufacturing industry make sense to give the few PMIC chips that do exist to RAM sticks that are fast, so that at launch all the tech journalists can just gush over DDR5, even though that's not an accurate representation of what the actual performance will be once a full set of RAM sticks will be available at e-tailers, and people will be like, well, I can't afford the 7,000 bin RAM for $1,500. Anyway, I suppose there's just two sides to it. But yeah, I don't really care. I was lucky enough to bench it at launch. It was a fun platform to bench, but there's plenty of other platforms to bench, especially now that we get we may be getting 1 core per CU benching for globals. I don't get that up because we're so constrained. Like, if you think about it, right, it's not like you make half a wafer of Samsung ICs. You make an entire wafer. Like, what does anyone know the manufacturing process that DDR5 typically is built on? It's got to be 10 nanometers or below. And like, you only need, for single-sided sticks, you only need 6 ICs. And these ICs are tiny. So, I just don't think this is a very good iGPU, I have to say. Like, so wafers are 30 centimeters across, right? ICs are what? 10, 11, I don't know what it is. Like, let's say one centimeter across. Like, just purely by the way that things are manufactured, even if you have only 1 wafer's worth of DDR5 chips for Samsung, that's still a shit ton of kits, right? Like, am I being just completely dumb here? Like, I don't really, like, the way supply is constrained. Like, it seems like they're even, I suppose, again, sort of the other way of looking at it would be that such a large, like, if you're talking only of about a handful of wafers of Samsung ICs, right, then such a large percentage of that would go to people who'll never give it up, like actual Samsung engineers or Intel or AMD, or people who just like, you can't withhold those sticks from, like, who knows, like, maybe Asus, ASRock, Gigabyte, MSI, maybe they each need, I don't know, I'll just throw a number out there, maybe they each need 20 kits just to be able to manufacture to be able to do quality analysis on their own boards. And then, if you have 5 manufacturers and they each need 20 kits, that's 100 kits already gone to just motherboard manufacturers. And then maybe even HP and Dell need kits just for their own internal QA. And then, of course, Intel and AMD do as well. And then, yeah, I can sort of refute my own argument there and say, in spite of the fact that the minimum possible quantity you could ever make of a certain IC being quite large, in my opinion, maybe I just don't fully grasp how many kits are spoken for before they even go to, overclockers and retail and stuff. But whatever all of the effects may be that have contributed to this shortage, it's undeniable that the sort of end result has been that people are not very excited at all about DDR5. Gamers, benchers, whatever, like, it's just because the other issue is there's no good DDR4 boards. It's like some sort of weird chicken and egg problem again, where motherboard manufacturers are keen to sell DDR5 boards only and just artificially make the DDR4 boards crap to sort of force people to early adopt DDR5. Yet there's not enough kits. Like, there's always been an early adopter tax, but never has it been as goddamn high as it currently is. Holy fucking shitball. Like, there's like kits, there's crap kits of DDR5 selling for 2,000 Aussie dollars. Like, that's not even something that's like within, I have like early adopted before. I think I've gone off that, but yeah, no, what I mean is, purely like in terms of what they can clock, fine. Yes, DDR4 boards are adequate, but like just from a benching perspective, like not a single one of these boards has LED debug, PS2, power reset, clear CMOS, and enough PCIe slots, you know, and that's a pretty low bar to pass in my opinion. You might disagree. And like the gigabyte thing, I'm pretty relaxed on the gigabyte thing actually. I think I sort of feel like it'll have to be worked out in the BIOS. Samsung is trying to replicate DDR4 die behavior. Yeah, I mean that also makes sense. Like you never want to be in an Intel 11th gen position, right? You just never want to be. Where 11th gen came out and everyone said, why do these have 2 cores less, 2 cores fewer than the previous gen? Why is this a worse buy than the previous gen's i9? You never want to be in that position. And even though it's sort of unfair to compare DDR5 to DDR4 this early in the cycle, people will still do it. So, but I mean, yeah, it's just like, and it's like, it's indisputable. Like for something not very memory intensive, like, and actually something that likes low latencies like legacy 3D, there's just no way DDR5 makes any sense. Like I don't want to do 2D, I just want to do 3D benching. I want to do a score dump. I just want to run through 15 cards in 5 benches each, and just get gold in everything using Alder Lake on LN2. And it's just not. It's not. I mean, I'm finding it hard to post that add-on, but I own one of those, and a lot of boards it won't work on. So I think I'm right in saying that Elmore's post-LED add-on is it uses the TPM, Trusted Platform Module, like protocol or standard, and it's totally up to the board manufacturers, even if there is a TPM header on the board. Yeah, exactly. Even if there is a TPM header on the board, which is not guaranteed, it's totally the manufacturers are free to not send the relevant debug LED signals through that header. So you can attach it and it might just show 00 all the time. It's sad because like I feel like they're pretty much actively stripping that data from it. I don't know how exactly it works. I haven't looked into it, but I don't think it would really cost anything for them to send that data through the TPM header, but a shit ton of them don't. And I mean, I had the Z490i MSI Unify, and that had only the blinky LEDs, and that's fine. And even using these what do you call it? Using these little power button thingies from AliExpress, that's fine. But like benching is already so hard. You really like having those little quality of life improvements, you know. And like the Z690 Apex has a bigger debug LED, and it sounds silly, but it really makes a difference. Like the actual type, the actual like font size on the debug LED is bigger than it's ever been on any other benching board, and it makes a difference, believe it or not, you know. So yeah, but I mean for 3D I don't need crazy memory overclocking anyway. Like 4000, a single rank 4000 gear 1 C14 would be fine, but like the reported issues, from how I understand them, you can't boot above a certain voltage VDIM, like 1.5 or something crazy low like that. I want to be, that's the other issue, right? Mainboard is my pump off or something. It just feels, no, it's not. What is it? What's making it crash? Is it? It might, you know, it might actually be the core. It might be the CPU core. I'll lower the CPU core. Hey, FBNSS, how you doing? Let's lower it. Actually, just auto core. And those things cost very little, you know. It's just a marketing / design decision to keep them out. And it's weird now because a lot of board have the BIOS flashback button, but not a clear CMOS button. But actually, on Intel boards, the BIOS flashback button does jack shit, really. Like, the BIOS flashback button is useful on AM4 because you've had now like 4 different generations of CPUs on that socket, and you could legitimately have the problem of not being able to boot with the current CPU you have and the current BIOS you have. But on Intel, it's just like this thing. It's sort of like VRMs, you know. Somewhere along the line, many years ago, people decided that bigger is better with VRMs, and we're just way past the point of diminishing returns with VRMs. And like BIOS flashback is like it's sort of like it's just sort of baked in that every single board should have a BIOS flashback button. I'm like, there's the button in the rear IO. I'm fine with it being labeled whatever. I just want that button to clear the CMOS instead. Can it please be done? Just fucking solder it somewhere else and let me just mash that button to clear the CMOS. How hard can it be? But it's, you know, it's like anything, like, you know, marketing and sales and all that, that's everything to, I mean, rightly so, but yeah, it's just so frustrating. Eating dinner. I should be eating dinner. Yeah. Later. What was I going to say? I had another tangent prepared. Oh, yes, that's right. So let me just launch this bench first. La-di-da-di-da. Here we go. TSC once again. So back, if you look at like socket A motherboard manuals or socket 939, it seems to me like back in the day, manuals would list how high and low a certain voltage would go. And like manuals have become more and more like marketing material type thing, you know, the stuff that really matters, like PCIe lane assignments, block diagrams, how high a certain voltage will go. That stuff is no longer in a manual very often. And I sort of got caught out. So on 10th gen launch, I bought a 10 Z490i Unify MSI, and I hadn't had an MSI benching board in so long. And it didn't have VTT. It didn't, there was no way of finding out other than like asking someone who owns the board to boot it up and look for a specific setting, or buying the board yourself. There was no way of finding out whether or not the VTT voltage existed on that board. And I just sort of assumed it would be there because, like, what's the harm in including it, you know? And same thing, a lot of boards, like I think at some point I owned some sort of Asus Strix B450 board, and the damn thing wouldn't go over 1.7 volts VDIM. And it's like, just how hard can it be? Surely physically it can go over 1.7 VDIM in DDR4. DDR4 doesn't have a lot of power consumption. It's not like you have to put a big fat, you know, 10 phase VRM in just to be able to go to 2 VDIM. So it's like this, again, this weird sort of marketing decision where they like survey all their customers and decide that such a large percentage of customers are so likely to accidentally set 2 VDIM and fry their sticks that they decided to just remove that. Yeah, okay, 2 VU caps, but okay, so let's say you have 2 V caps. What's the realistic max VDIM? Because if a 2 V cap means your max VDIM is 1.9, then that's still so much better than 1.7. It won't let you yeah, exactly. So there's weird limitations. Like, there's so little I need in a bias. Like, okay, I mean, the problem was that one time in history, I don't know how many people at the memory manufacturers remember this episode, But the one time in history that a purely benching orientated motherboard was released, the X58OC, it didn't sell because it was overbuilt. But it's sort of like cars. I think that I sometimes think about buying an electric car, but I don't want a Tesla. I don't want a fucking touchscreen in my car. I think it's pointless. When I want to turn off the air conditioning in my car, I want to do it with a knob, not a touchscreen. It's so fucking dumb. I can't even express it in words. So I want an electric car that has all the latest battery tech, but has nothing else. It's just like bare bones. And I feel the same about benching boards, you know? I need a board with 2 DIMM slots, a CPU socket, an adequate VRM, a clear CMOS button, a power button, a reset button, a debug LED, a couple of USB 2.0 ports, PS2, and maybe to display out if really necessary, but maybe not even that. But even that, I mean, you've got these boards with like 4 M.2 slots, you know, RGB everywhere, but they don't even have enough PCIe slots, you know. Just, I don't know, man. And that was the other thing with the MSI, was I never actually ended up taking a cold because there was a thread on HardwareBot suggesting that there were XOC biases, and this is a single bias board, so it's not like the easiest thing in the world to flash it and flash it back, right? I flashed the supposed XOC bias. It had the identical version string of the retail bias, and I could not find, with a lot of searching, I could not find a single thing in the bias that was different. A single added option, a single subtracted option, not even a change in text color or size. Like, it literally seemed to be the exact same thing. And so I never took a call because I'm like, there's no VTT. There is a few little wonky little things about memory overclocking that can be overcome, but vCore limited to 1.7, and it's like, yeah, that'll be okay-ish for multi-core, but I wanted to do 32M at the time, and I'm like, 1.7 for 32M on cold, it's just not going to cut it, you know? Like, it's just not going to cut it. And that was the best of the bunch for MSI, and I lost so much money reselling that. And it's like, they should, you know, apologize for all this ranting. But anyway, there should be, like, back in the day, you would have a motherboard roundup, like a motherboard shootout, and we just need that for benching. It's like, crap or not, you know, like, all we need is, like, there's certain boards that are just literally just completely unusable for benching, and it's like the majority of boards, we just need that label stamped on the box, you know, just don't bench with this. And yeah, and then there's some boards that are sort of passable, and there's weird stuff that happens too. Like, I remember at a certain point in time, the Crosshair 7 Hero, like, they sort of stripped the full pot voltages out of it for first gen Ryzen because they were pushing it so hard for second gen Ryzen. And I'm like, what the fuck, guys? I mean, this board, you have even less of an excuse for doing this. This board used to be the best first gen Ryzen benching board. Then I pull it down again on a newer BIOS, and everything's like, nothing works the way it used to, you know. And I'm like, you know, now we're actively removing features that used to be there. So a 2V cap, what does that mean? I mean, does that mean you can go to 1.99, 1.95, 1.9? Yeah, well, that's, I mean, tech journalism. If it's possible for a niche of journalism to have fallen further than current affairs reporting, it's tech journalism. And that's a big statement, but I feel like it's the case, you know. There's just there's nothing, there's just no one's home anymore, you know. Wow, big jump in GTs. Okay, let's apply a basic overclock. 3600 C14 at 1.65, something like that. I mean, just the gentlest of gentle overclocks. Whatever. Hi, Forks. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, but it's sort of a mutual thing, right? Like, I don't want to come off sounding like a grumpy old man, but I feel like the emphasis on sort of real world performance and real world use cases in the past with hardware was greater. Like, because in the past gaming was so much closer to the edge, like now people are like, oh, I need to optimize my rig for like 240 hertz or whatever. Like, it's so much closer to an existential question. Like, back in the day, it was an existential question. Is your PC fast enough to run a game or not? Like, I remember playing Morrowind on an Athlon 750 megahertz with, I think, 128 megabytes of RAM, something like that, and a GeForce 2MX or something. And like, I would open a dungeon door and it would load for between 5 and 10 minutes. And nowadays people are like, oh, I've got a variable refresh rate monitor that has a, variable, like a hertz range of 90 to 160 hertz, and I don't hit the cap. I don't hit the max all the time or whatever. It just seems so much. I don't want to use, like, I was gonna say petty, but I don't want to put it in a negative. Like, it's good that this has happened in a sense. Like, we're no longer having to upgrade our rig every year to be able to play the latest game, and it's not the gamers' fault as such that they have less to complain about. But a side effect of that is that the hardware reviews are less about the actual sort of concrete. Ooh, that didn't work. Less about the actual sort of concrete performance of the component anymore. There's so much more emphasis put on looks. Like, back in the day, you couldn't worry about looks because there was just one thing that was like fast enough, and if that one thing, you get me, like, you just, they would be like, a new GPU was released and you had to buy it because otherwise you couldn't play your game, and it came just in red, because that's like the PCBs were red and that's it. So now it's just this like never-ending cycle of unnecessary and irrelevant things being considered necessary and relevant, because you have to sort of debate about it to some degree. Like, there has to be some like conflict, there has to be some I misread PCBs, so do I. There has to be something to talk about. It's like something to discuss, and there actually kind of isn't, like, besides GPU prices, which annoys everyone. But it's like there in a sense there is no difference between motherboards anymore. Like, they're all sort of the same. Like, they're all adequate, they're all good, they're all fine for daily uses. So then what people do start to talk about instead is, what color RGB is on it, and you know, if I want to run a 16 hard drive file server, will it work on this motherboard? You know, just stuff that just like really sort of abstract and obscure, really. Is this a real post now, or is it again a safe boot sort of thing? So Forks, did you go to the US bench meet? How was it? If you did, how was it? Okay, let's do it. God damn it. Okay. But I mean, along with that, we've had, so, you know, there's also obviously also that effect of, no, reboot, you goddamn thing. Oh, cool, you're going to both of them. Nice. Like, the decline of journalism obviously is universal. It's not just hardware journalism, and I mean, in order to survive, obviously, publications have needed to sort of like, you know, latch on to hardware manufacturers. It's not that they've done that because they wanted to increase their profits. They've done it to sort of survive, you know. So you can't really. It's almost as if no one is at fault as such for this whole development. Like, it's like the relevant players are the hardware manufacturers, the journalists, and the consumer. But it's not like it's anyone's fault. Like, it's like sort of everyone's fault and no one's fault. I don't know why I'm going on and on about this, because I don't really know anything about daily systems. I haven't PC gamed in about 10 years. My daily rig, if I have one, is just my streaming rig, which is a Ryzen 1800X in a Crosshair 7 Hero running all stock, including the RAM. The RAM is running at 2133 because it's just whatever. It's like, it's fast enough. Like, I don't really care. Why are you booting? We need direct to bias buttons to come back. Was it the Maximus 4 Extreme or whatever it's called? Maximus 4 Extreme, Maximus 5 Extreme have those buttons, I think. It's getting worse and worse. Now it's showing 400. I forgot how bad the IMCs are on Zen Plus. I can train my RAM with a batch file. That would be nice. In OS RAM overclocking. Yeah, but I mean, who's to, so okay, I'm an idealist, right? So take this whole suggestion with a grain of salt. But instead of the current model, which seems to be tech journalists ask motherboard manufacturers to provide them hardware for free in return for, you know, in exchange for a review. How about there are fewer tech journalists, but they sort of band together and buy the hardware themselves and then do a roundup, because you can't stop that from happening. Of course, the big sort of issue with all this is like, so the other trend is everything has to be out on launch day, right? Like, everyone has to have the hardware pre-release because they need to be able to smash the upload button 1 second after embargo lifts, which is another problem. Like, I guess again, it's one of those sort of vicious cycles, right? Like, if one manufacturer, let's say Intel, I don't know if they really were the ones who started this off, but if Intel were to start hyping up a launch and having every tech tuber do a launch minute, it's not even launch day coverage, it's launch minute coverage, then I suppose AMD would be at a competitive disadvantage if they were not to do the same thing. But it's just, yeah, it's just such a vicious cycle because it's empty content. Like, it's like whoever, like, it's like no one's immune from it. Like Linus Tech Tips, Gamers Nexus, Hardware Unboxed, they're all just like, they all put up like a 10-minute video saying, you know, buy it or not, don't buy it on launch minute. You know, it's such empty content, and it's, again, it's not their issue, their fault. It's like the only way they can make money is by having launch day content, and in order to have launch day content, you need to have relationships with the manufacturer and get free hardware from them, because retail availability won't be there. And anyway, even if retail availability is there, it's going to be after launch. You know, it's not going to be sufficiently ahead of time for them to have launch day content, and it's just this never-ending thing. But yeah, you can just write "you're an old man" in chat, and I will have earned it by all my ranting on the stream. Yeah, that's a big issue, isn't it? It's like there's always this disclaimer: oh, we're on a pre-release BIOS, and this is an ES chip and an ES motherboard, and we didn't have enough DDR5 yet to really sufficient test, and it just becomes this whole thing where, like, why are you even bothering? You may as well just, you know, call up a soothsayer and be like, is this good hardware or not? You know, it's, yeah. I suppose the situation, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I suppose the situation on the GPU side is a bit better. Like, they don't, I mean, I don't necessarily watch that many tech tubers, but I don't think they sort of excuse driver issues as much on the GPU side as they do, let's say, bias and memory overclocking issues on the CPU side. I could be wrong. But I seem to remember Vega and the 5000 series, like Navi 1 or whatever it's called, or RDNA 1, being disassembled in the media for having crap drivers on launch. But again, the drivers, you know, the reviewers will point out, this is the driver pack that we got from the manufacturer. It's such bullshit. It's like, I feel like we'd almost be better off without tech journalism at this point, because I mean, I know the situation is really unrealistic, but imagine a situation where there is no tech journalism, right? What would happen is you'd have sort of a community member buying the hardware really, really early and testing through the night and being like, look guys, the actual situation is it's a pile of shit, you know. so funnily enough, the existence of tech journalism causes disinformation to a degree, you know. It's sort of funny. For the year, as in the year from the 20th of December 2021 to the 20th of December 2022, or you mean the calendar year, as in those last remaining 11 days? Okay, so that actually trained, so that's good. I forgot how bad these IMCs are. Wow, it's like a time warp. Oh, okay. I mean, 30 kits for 11 days. I mean, look, I don't know. It's not ideal, but it's, I mean, the good thing, just to boil it down into one sentence, the good thing about DDR5 availability issues is we don't need it anyway. Unlike GPUs have now reached the point where people's like GTX 970s are dying and there's no replacement. That's how long there's been availability issues with GPUs. So I see that more critically. Like, it's like, I should probably be ashamed to say this, but the price inflation on the GPU side for cards that are suitable for mining has been so extreme at points in time that I've even considered selling my world record RX 480. That's for God's sake, piece of shit. Like not that so many people have benched Polaris, but a couple of years ago I did Polaris GPU Pi 2 gigahertz on the core, and to this day no one else has done it. And yeah, I still have that card. But still, at a certain point in time, I sort of thought about selling it, and that's not an unhealthy. That's like an unhealthy state for a market to be in, let's say. And but the fundamental thing is, tech has always deprecated. Like, tech has always been like cars, you know, like it's not supposed to appreciate. It's not supposed to go up in value. That just causes all sorts of major distortions. Let's try that. By the way, now that we have a few more people, I did launch. One of the reasons I haven't streamed in a while is I launched a film photography Discord. If there's any overlap whatsoever between extreme overclocking and film photography, join that server, and you'll be welcome over there. But I don't know how I just thought of that. But anyway, I thought of it because there's this trend in art in the broadest sense. I don't want to like elevate photography to art, you know, high art. I'm not that pretentious, but art in the most broadest sense has had this sort of similar awakening to tech, to I don't know why I'm calling it an awakening. That has sort of like positive connotations, but I think you get the idea. It's had this like revelation of mining, right? So there's mining in tech, and there's NFTs in art, non-fungible tokens. And I think it's just a crock of shit. I think it's terrible. I think they should ban it. Well, I don't know how you would ban it, but the environmental impact. So this is so crazy. Like, people go on and on about you know, analog photography having a high environmental impact. But the environmental impact of one NFT is just like just insane, totally insane, because you've basically got to do the it's still proof of work, right? NFTs are. Let's go down a bit and up a bit. So you've got to essentially mine in order to generate an NFT, and I still don't understand why people are claiming that NFTs are art, or why we should care. Like, an NFT is just a bunch of bits and bytes. Yes, it happens to be a bunch of bits and bytes that are non reproducible. Not, you can't copy it by design, but that doesn't make it art. Like, people, you know, okay, so like Leonardo da Vinci, there's obviously only one original, whatever, Renaissance man or whatever. I don't even know what his pieces of art are called. There's clearly only one original. Like, you can copy it pretty well, maybe to the point where you can't see the difference or whatever, but just like factually speaking, there's only one original, and actual craft went into the creation of that original, and we should preserve that original. And there's reasons there's only one of that, you know, that all makes sense to me. But why someone should take something that is reproducible and artificially make it non-reproducible, I don't understand that logic. That's just, you know, that's just, I mean, that's just pure speculation, pure money making. Like, I just fundamentally, like, of course the answer to all questions in 2021 is people are trying to make money off it, and that's why it exists. But if you go beyond that point, there's nothing. There's just nothing. And you know, there's the sad thing is that NFTs are invading all spaces of so-called art. You know, like I would have, like, sort of naively, I would have thought when NFTs were first becoming a thing, I thought, well, it's sort of like true digital artists, so people who really are like spending hundreds of hours creating a piece of art from scratch in a you know, instead of doing it with oil paintings, they do it on a computer, and that's just their choice, and they then want to earn money from it by turning it into an NFT, and that's fine. That sort of makes some sort of sense. But the fact that it's invading the photography space, people shooting a digital image and then turning it into an NFT, or shooting an analog image, scanning it in, and then turning that into an NFT, I think that's just disgusting. You know, like, what the fuck are they like? Especially on the analog side, like analog photography, what you do is you enlarge it optically, analog, and you create a print in a darkroom, and that is unique. Not as unique as, you know, Da Vinci's paintings might be, because you can easily throw that same negative into an enlarger and make another optical print that's almost the same but not exactly the same. But like, that physical piece of art is a piece of art that is unique, and that's how you get to that point of an NFT without fucking the environment, you know. But people like scanning in a negative and then turning it in, like, it's just so dumb. I mean, it's not dumb because they're making money off it, and they're greedy, and their only aim in life ever was to make money, and they're you know, meeting that aim. But besides that, it's fucking dumb. But of course, there again, a little bit like tech journalism, you have that other side to it, where people who love photography are searching desperately for a means to make it a viable business, and sort of mistakenly think that NFTs are the answer. And I do have some sympathy for them, because, you know, the emergence of camera phones and so on has led to, like, you know, I don't want to say starving photographies, but people no longer making a living when they used to make a living. Similar, you know, to sort of close that loop, similar to tech like journalists in general, where there's this you know, this profession that used to be quite well paid. Actually, 1400 is the default boost clock, so I may not be able to get this stable, you know. So I do have sympathy for them, but the NFT is, I mean, it's sort of like your granny receiving a scam call for like life insurance that doesn't exist or something, you know. It's almost rises to that level of, you know, here you have a quote unquote starving photography, or like a struggling photographer looking for a way out, and then some guy on the internet like tweets at them and goes, "Hey, have you tried NFTs?" No, it's almost to that level of that scam call, landline call to your granny, and that's sad. And there's many victims, not just the person who's being scammed, and the person who's potentially buying the NFT thinking they have something unique, but you're also fucking the environment. So yeah, great all around. Web 2.0. Shouldn't we be at Web 3.0 at this point? Feels like we should, but maybe not. So some 980. Pars are not working. Some 980 classifieds on Aussie eBay. That's exciting. Probably still sell for like $600 because of mining. Metaverse. But apparently, oh. So even though it's boosting up to 1400, not setting a fixed iGPU clock was enough to get this bench stable. Weird. APUs are weird. So metaverse. So apparently, the metaverse was an item in, like, it was like a thing in a 1990s novel, and it was like a negative thing. That happens so much nowadays. I don't know if you guys ever observe that trend of someone, like some marketing person or whatever, finds a term or something that like vaguely sounds like what they want, and they just adopt it because they're like, oh cool, metaverse. But then if you really look into it, like if you read up like the wiki entry on it or whatever, it actually ends up being a negative thing. And like, I don't know why. So essentially, if people weren't really shallow and never, like, people never read beyond the headline, right? So it's sort of irrelevant. The fact that the metaverse has negative connotations is sort of irrelevant, because the vast majority of people will be like, metaverse, that kind of sounds cool. Oh, Facebook, oh, look at this ad, okay, great. But it's sort of funny that it has negative connotations. So they're not, in a sense, they're not even trying to hide their plan. While that run's going on, I'll just actively popular. So weird. And while that run's going on, I'll just quickly run out and get a new. Unmute. Face cam. Second beer of the night. Pirate Life Stout. Probably terrible, but let's pour it anyway. Can you hear that sound of the pouring? So yeah, I got a new camera. Can I somehow show it? It's still on the way. But I got a GH5, which is probably ridiculous overkill. But images. Boom. I'm excited about it. It's gonna be great. It's like a professional level camera from 2017, so it's affordable. Just a couple of $100 more than what I'm currently running as my main camera. And it does, the interesting thing is it does 180 FPS. So you can do like 5x slow-mo. I mean, my setups are really simple these days because I don't stream enough, but once I get back into the swing of streaming and do LM2 streams, I wanna maybe see, I can run up to 4 cameras. So I feel like if I have a face cam, a rig cam, a pour cam, / maybe the pour cam can double up as a postcode cam, and then have a 4th cam that's just a slow-mo cam that's literally doing like continuous slow-mo, and I can just cut to it and be like, ooh, look at this LM2 vapor in slow-mo. That'd be fun. Animal Farm. Okay, yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah, I did, this is some years ago now, but I came across a Polish person like years and years ago that was wearing a CCCP t-shirt, and that's sort of in a similar vein, right? Like the USSR actively enslaved your people and like did all sorts of horrible things, and like you lost your independence as a country due to this place. But like even just like 10-15 years later, it's cool to wear a t-shirt with those letters on it, you know, like what is going on there? It's, I mean, it's like I understand ironic sort of trends, but that's like it's sort of beyond irony, right? Like it's not just irony. Like it's so weird. It's what is even going on there? Like, I have another story. Once I note down these. Okay, so 30. What is it? 3066C14 RAM, iGPU Auto, 626 GTs. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is, since it was iGPU stability, yeah, so maybe I can push the RAM up a little bit. I'll try 3200. Political statement, yeah, maybe. Okay, bias time. I wish this no signal screen were actually configurable on this capture card. Yeah, well, that's the other insane thing, right? I mean, it's all a matter of perspective, right? I mean, I sort of need to be careful with this, because so coming from Germany, clearly Germany was divided in two for many decades, and one part was communist. As I feel a squeeze coming, sneeze coming on. Sorry, that's not Omicron. That's spring allergies. People. So basically, to cut to the chase, in Germany, people from the East talk favorably about the East. You know, about the East German country that used to exist prior to 1990, and from the outside looking in, you sort of think that doesn't seem right. You know, there was mass surveillance, there were all these things, but they'll point to one little thing and be like, oh, it was so much better then, you know. Like, it's true that, so if you sort of focus in on, for example, the sort of opportunities and the treatment of women in East Germany in 1989 and then in reunified Germany in 1990, it was better in East Germany, because, you know, communism sort of as a side effect of this whole communist ethos of everyone being equal, they were also much more tolerant of, you know, women getting educated, not just being housewives, that sort of thing, you know. But like 30 years have passed since then, and I would sort of say, you know, the sort of like overall situation now in Germany in 2021 is just overall better than it ever was in the East. But people still sort of look back on that fondly and be like, oh yeah, if it just would have continued, then it would be even better now than in. And it's just this, yeah, I don't know, all these weird sort of little arguments that that people make. And the other one is sort of around like industry and education as well. Like the sort of university system was well regarded and stuff, and I don't know, like that just seems such a petty thing, like such a small thing compared to people were being imprisoned for life for saying the wrong thing at a dinner party. Like, isn't that sort of a higher priority? In the same way that a lot of British people think that Brexit was good. Yeah, true. What Sean, what naming scheme? That is very similar to East Germany, actually. Like, you're sort of comparing to a place that no longer exists. You know, people want the East back in Germany because they look back fondly on it from the 80s when they were young and stuff, you know. And similar thing with Brexit is like they want the British Empire back that hasn't existed really since what, the 50s or something. Yeah. Okay, I think that seems to have actually like posted and stuff. Omicron, yeah. Ooh, fancy. So on this generation, there's no such thing as Gear 1 and Gear 2, right? Yeah, FCLK is also always MCLK. Let's give that another run. But I mean, having said all that, you know, I just want to be clear about it. Like, perception is reality. So it's legit to, I mean, and also you should question things, you know, like it sometimes sort of goes too far in my opinion and stuff, but it's, you know, there's a lot of things that other people that I know or that you sort of read about, hear about, consider to be like these universal truths that I just consider to be deception, or and everyone has their blind spots as well. Like, again, I would hope that the average person doesn't have blind spots that are so large that they believe in Brexit or they believe in East Germany being this amazing place. But it's all a spectrum, right? Like, I have blind spots, you guys have blind spots, and I suppose hopefully they end up being lots of little blind spots that don't really impact your life. But for some people, they end up being one big blind spot, like, you know, COVID is all fake news, or Brexit is great, or, you know, Alex Jones is the best TV presenter that ever lived, you know, that kind of thing. It's not just hindsight though. Like, people, I mean, there are ways to assess a situation. I mean, it's, you know, I wish, you know, this idea of the objectivity subjectivity split didn't exist, but yes, are there ways to assess things as they're going on, you know, in the present day, in a much more objective way, and like sort of almost systematically, I would argue. Maybe that's my blind spot, that I believe that that's possible when it really isn't, you know. Who knows? And there is sort of like a counter argument that hindsight isn't 2020, that actually the further away, like the further into the past certain events move, the more colored or accepted story of what happened is. You know, I don't know what a good example would be. Maybe 9/11, you know, like maybe we sort of had a better grasp of what really happened on that day, on the day, or maybe the following week, than we now do. You know, now we're all sort of like divided into our camps, you know. Let it happen, made it happen, and, you know, truthers and yeah, I mean, history is written by the victors. Like, that's for damn sure, right? Like, um, I mean, like, I think that like World War II is sort of a classic example. Like, just, I mean, you can basically everyone was the villain in World War II to varying, like vastly varying degrees. Don't get me wrong, but like anything anyone ever talks about anymore, whatever it is, 70 years later, is two, like, let's say like two factions within World War II and their wrongdoings, right? And that's not to diminish those, when in fact all participants in World War II did pretty bad things. You know, there was the concentration camp, the term internment camps. Let's not like color the language. The internment camps for Japanese Americans in the US, there was certainly a shit ton of bad shit going on in Russia. But we just talk about the Axis powers because they lost the war, right? So they're, anyway, let's not get too political, but I think you get my point. Like, it's like everyone, like, when it comes to war, very often everyone's the bad guy, just to varying degrees. And then, the history is written by the victors. And that, yeah, I mean, in recent times, that's sort of added a very US centric slant to things. Skynet, I mean, I found it, just to give like a slightly more recent example, I found it hilarious when under Trump, the decision was made to withdraw troops from Syria. And I was like, hold on, I thought you didn't have any troops in Syria, because actually the previous administration vehemently denied ever sending troops to Syria. Yet somehow we could withdraw troops that never were there in the first place. I thought that was just the best thing ever. Withdrawing troops that never existed in the first place. That was classic. How's this gonna score? I wonder if this chip, like, with just enough tuning, can do like 1,000 points and times by extreme. How would I rate this? This is an interesting stout. It's a very how many percent is this? 5.6. 1.6 standard drinks. It's a very easy drinking stout. But yeah, I mean, like, with 9/11, you can certainly argue. I would listen to arguments all day, actually, of someone saying that the follow-up actions taken by the US to retaliate for 9/11 were caused much greater harm to, like, humanity than 9/11 itself. Gitmo is a Gitmo problem. Yeah, and there's that sort of opposite issue as well, where I observe that a lot in Germany, actually, where people just sort of say, "Oh, the US, that's full of crazy people. Look at what they do. We're better than that." And that's not really the case. Like, that's not really the case either, right? Like, that's not to say, like, I I don't consider the US to be a perfectly functioning society. Like, nowhere is, but like the US is even more imperfect, let's say, than many other places. But that's not to say you can sort of like talk down on it. Oh, look at them. They all open carry guns and there's no healthcare. Oh, that place is just a failed state. That's also like missing the point. Like the sort of the sort of operating principle would be, let he who what's the phrase, let he who's not a sinner or whatever throw the first stone, sort of thing. Like, it's that's sort of the real that's sort of the real problem with all this, is everything can always be cast as just putting someone down. Whereas, like, it's really, really hard to do, but what we should do is like criticize well, not to like put too much of a downer on it, but we should actually be criticizing everyone equally. Criticize your allies, your enemies, and yourself all equally. If something is not right, then call it out. But what tends to happen is one country gets their knickers in a twist because another country criticizes them, and then, oh, it's a diplomatic spat. Oh, what are we going to do? And then for 5 years after that, those two countries don't have quote unquote normal relations anymore. Whereas, like, again, this is very naively speaking, but what should happen is the country is like the bigger person and goes, okay, you're right in calling us out on that. That is something we need to improve. Help us do it, you know. But of course, you know, that's never going to happen. Like there's, you know, you could go on endlessly about every country and all the mistakes they've made. Like in Ireland, only recently they sort of uncovered lots of like dead babies, like just buried under religious institutions. So like there was this systematic system, like religiously motivated, but I don't want to like call out this particular church because it happens everywhere, sort of thing. But like there was this thing where if a baby was conceived out of wedlock, he would just like shuffle away that woman somewhere, just to an institution in the broadest sense. And then sort of, I don't know how they actually did it. Like, did they abort the baby or wait for it to be born and then kill it? But anyway, they got rid of the baby because it wasn't, you know, conceived in like a marriage. So that's Ireland's troubled past, you know, like Ireland's legacy, Ireland's like lesson to learn, right? And then of course Germany, it's bloody fucking obvious, it's World War II, right? And then for East Germany it's Stasi and so on. But for Australia, it's going on right now. We have offshore detention centers, illegal by international law, really fucking illegal offshore detention centers for asylum seekers that are just criminal, like they're just like crimes against humanity, and that's going on right now, you know. So I live in Australia, but like again, it's I don't want to create any false equivalencies, you know, like are the Nazis as bad as like the current government in Australia? Like there's no way to really like, I mean there is a way to judge that, but like that's sort of like counterproductive. But what I'm trying to say is like there are lessons to be learned everywhere, and it shouldn't really, again, this is really naive, but it shouldn't really be like this is a German lesson to learn, this is an Irish lesson to learn, this is an Australian lesson to learn, this is the UK, this is the US lesson to learn. It's like humanity in general has lessons to be learned, you know, like things to learn from the past, from history, and we don't appear to be doing that, you know. Move to my own island, yeah, I think that'd be nice. Yeah, right into the foreign aid department. Yeah, it's, you know, the old adage of better to ask for forgiveness than permission, sort of thing, you know. Yeah, that certainly is a thing. But I mean, yeah. So I mean, in the U.S., there's just countless examples. You know, the Vietnam War, Gulf War I, Gulf War II, the Patriot Act, the Sandinistas and all that involvement in Latin America, propping up what was his face, guy in Chile. I'm literally gonna Google Chile dictator now. I'm curious. Pinochet. Yeah. So there was that guy. I mean, there was like even stuff like annexing Hawaii, like it was his own independent kingdom, and the US was like, oh yeah, we need this, you know, that kind of thing. And then obviously the mistreatment of Native Americans, you know, in sort of more recent history, black people, Asians. The UK was involved in, yeah, I mean the UK, you know, I don't know how it all sort of came about, but it's almost like the US learned from its parents, the UK, in a way. I remember now the mid 2000s. The big story was Siemens, the German like conglomerate. What the one I read an article about that, and bribery, you know, in developing nations, And one detail, one factor that sort of stood out to me was bribery in Siemens was so institutionalized that by default contracts for developing nations would be printed up in a different way, where instead of a space to sign, there would be a space to attach a sticker, and you would sign on the sticker, and then you would present the contract to the other party in that state so they know that you sign it, and then you would peel off the sticker because you don't want to be criminally liable. And that was something that was actually, there was a procedure, like it was like ingrained in how Siemens operated, was this whole thing of, oh, we're operating in Cambodia now, oh, let's get the sticker contracts out, you know. It's just obscene. Haven't heard of Chile, Sean? I mean, I don't know how much you're into politics and history and world history and so on, but just Google like US I don't know if this is the right search term, but US interference in Latin America. It's mind-blowing what they did, like everywhere, you know. There's obviously the Bay of Pigs invasion, but there's also Chile. There was, I think, the Sandinistas in Nicaragua. They basically just went, we want to control everything, single, you know, regime in Latin America. We would rather have a dictatorship that we have influence over than a democracy that we don't. And that's just the rules they sort of applied to everywhere in Latin America for decades. Castro, yeah. That was funny. The literal exploding pen. Oh yeah, I mean Venezuela, that's a whole other thing. But it's just, yeah, there's just this like fundamental belief in the broadest sense that the US deep state, however you want to define the deep state, I suppose it's the intelligence community as they call it, and like some politicians, to just exert influence everywhere, you know, just have your like, what is the saying, like have a finger in every pie or something. And it could be really ham-fisted sometimes as well. John Bolton, what an idiot. But then there was the Shah in the 70s. Like, it's so comical. Like, the US now is always on Iran's back, you know, more sanctions, more this, more that. They caused the current, like, in essence, they caused the current situation in Iran. There was a better regime in Iran in the 70s, and then they affected regime change, which isn't just an outrageous term anyway. What does regime change mean? Regime change means illegally interfering in other countries' affairs, you know? Like if the people want a right-wing government, let them have it. Let them learn that lesson, you know, like, or a left-wing government or a centrist government or a dictatorship or communist government, like, just, you know, I mean, obviously there's democracy is very, very flawed, but a country that is democratic should be allowed to exercise its democratic right. Or else, like, what are you actually doing, you know, like what the hell are you actually doing? Okay, so 3133 RAM at CL712 is a 635 GTs. Before it was a 631. Okay, but how am I going to be able to, my sort of issue is, how do I raise my iGPU? Yeah, just the state. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, there's so many aspects to it, and it's just an endless topic, and that's sort of the like, sort of the I would sort of argue that one of the mechanisms by which these things self-perpetuate them, like are perpetuated, is the fact that people don't have that long of a memory, or like it's like you would have to spend like 30 years on doing it. Like let's say in the case of the US, you would literally have to spend like 30 years slowly but surely on doing all the work that's been done basically. And that's sort of impossible because elections are every 4 years, and odds are that after 3.5 years it'll look like you're doing a shit job because you're playing the long game, you know. And yeah, so that sort of all becomes a bit problematic to say the least. Fuck it, let's try that. And then of course you have that whole other aspect of you know, people just getting, like, JFK got assassinated, Malcolm X got assassinated. It's like the people who want to rock the system a little bit, they don't survive to tell the tale, you know. Okay, that's certainly not working. But then there's an apathy towards politics as well, you know. Like my sort of stance has always pretty much always been that everything is political in a sense. Everything is politics. Like there's whatever, there's like politics, there's gender politics, there's like race politics, there's everything's political. There's infrastructure politics, you know, whatever you can think of, it's political in a sense because politics is more or less in charge of everything in a sense, you know. And but people don't want to engage in politics because they just like feel like, well, all the politicians are the same, and that sort of feels like, that almost feels like intentional, like politicians intentionally come across as just like complete fucking idiots, and all of them do all at the same time in order for the general population to disengage, and then for them to be able to do whatever the fuck they want, you know, on the slide, you know. So that's also a vicious circle. My my sort of like wet dream has been, and I don't know if this could ever be realized, but the idea was, how about, you know, I don't know if it would be like, I don't think I would be capable of this, but a person should join a political party from a young age and pretend to be in favor of everything that they do, like just like totally fucking toe the party line, suck up to all the superiors, rise the ranks, just hope beyond hope that they become prime minister, and then the day they become prime minister, do a live television interview saying, I've just deceived all of you, but it's for a better goal, it's for a greater good. I'm actually going to do the exact opposite of what I said, you know, and try to stop me. If I get assassinated, you'll know it's my own party doing it because they'll be pissed off for me, you know, deceiving them for all that time. If I get voted out, then it's your own damn fault, you know. But I feel like that's the only way. That's the only way you can do it because, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, you know. So if you actually buy into it, instead of like just tokenistically, then it's already too late. And yeah, that's just how it works, you know. And I feel like I mean, public opinion does turn on a dime in a lot of cases nowadays. Entryism. Yeah, but no one's actually implemented it. So like, I'm not saying that it's an original idea, I'm just saying that it needs to be implemented, you know. Like, who's done it, who's actually like, who in like a Western country has actually done it? And I feel like since public opinion can turn on a dime, it could work. I mean, it's really fucking risky, but if you go in front of a camera and say, look guys, I've been full of shit so far, but there was a good reason. I'm actually going to make education free. I'm actually going to tax the rich. I'm actually going to introduce universal basic income. I'm actually going to increase social welfare, and I'm actually going to fire all these fucking assholes around me. Shouldn't that work? Like, if someone really applies themselves, shouldn't it work? Like, what's the reason that wouldn't work? Tony Blair and Keir Starmer. But I mean, look, I'm guessing you were in the UK during that new Labour government. I wasn't, so I'm not as familiar with it as you are. But I thought the idea of new Labour was, since the British public, voting public, for whatever reason, leans conservative, you have to sort of pretend to be conservative, and then once you're in power, ever so slightly lean towards the thing that you actually want to do. And that's sort of what they did, and that's why they stayed in power and were the longest serving Labour government in 150 years or something like that. But that's not really entryism, is it? Like, entryism, how I understand it, would be to actually just completely flip. Yeah, Keir Starmer, I don't know. Could be. Red Tory, still Tory. Trotsky. It's I mean, it's sort of, you can easily see it as being like depressing, right? Like, everything that could ever happen has already happened in a way, you know, like history repeats itself. And all we're doing now is sort of just like shading in the margins, and like we're just sort of like coloring around the edges. Like, there's nothing really happening anymore. Like, that's sort of new in a sense. But I'm actually in favor of people switching sides. I think that's great. I mean, maybe not in the specific case of Trump, but I think that it's like it's a true like showing of strength of character for someone to say, I was wrong. I've seen the, you know, maybe not I've seen the light, but like I've seen the error in my ways, and now I'm different, you know? Yeah, that whole situation in the UK was truly bizarre. Like, the Tories were so afraid of UKIP that they called a referendum and then couldn't be bothered their arses actually making arguments in favor of the side that they wanted to win. You know, like, what could possibly go wrong? I mean, there should be an evolution of ideas. Like, I would say that, like, I'm 34 now. I started to sort of care about politics when I was maybe 16, and I would say that, I mean, I haven't. The sad thing is, I have only voted once in my life because I've never lived. I've not really lived much in countries that I was a citizen of, so I've never had a vote, which is kind of sad. But my sort of like leanings, my like voting intention leanings over the years have certainly changed from center left to Greens, back to center left again, to centrist, to, you know. Who else was there? I mean, I'm trying to think. In the US, there's a few people like that. Like, it's just a joke that it's two-party systems are just fucking cancer. Like, the fact that Bernie Sanders can't just like join a third party that has some sort of realistic chance at winning something is goddamn fucking bizarre. Like here you have a country of like 350 million people, and somehow their interests are supposed to be represented by two parties. That's a big joke. How could that possibly work? Yeah, FBNSS. I don't have a vote. I don't have Aussie citizenship. Germany. There's a whole new kind of worms. Germany does not allow dual citizenship. What a joke. What a fucking joke. I would have to give up my German citizenship to get Aussie citizenship. How is that fair? What is the point of that? Someone please try and explain that to me, because it's bizarre. But yeah, so I've been off voting age for 16 years and I've only ever voted once. Yeah, so White Shark, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but basically it boils down to Germany allows dual citizenship with another EU country, since that other citizenship doesn't really fucking matter anyway, because EU rights are more or less, I mean, to 95% aligned across the EU, so they allow dual EU citizenship. But I think there's like conditions on that too, like kids born with two citizenship might, certain kids might have to like choose one or the other when they turn 18. But Germany with a third country like the US, Canada, maybe even the UK now that they've left the EU, Australia, New Zealand, that is not permitted at all. And I don't really know what, it's not allowed because it's not allowed. There's no like justification for it. It's just not allowed. There's obviously the option of an exception, but you have to justify your exception. So you have to hire a lawyer in Germany to represent you, and you have to show evidence to support your claim that as a resident of, let's say in my case, Australia, you will be disadvantaged if you don't have citizenship. So though that evidence would be along the lines of, you want to apply for a army job, a job in the army or in like the intelligence community, and since you don't have citizenship, you won't be considered for that job, and you really want that job. So that would be evidence in support of you getting Australian citizenship. But you also have to provide evidence in support of you keeping German citizenship. So that would be along the lines of strong family ties, returning to Germany regularly, maybe even owning property over there, that kind of thing. So it's evaluated on a case by case basis whether or not you get this exception where you are given dual citizenship. It's not an automatic thing. Whereas a lot of people I know have like 4 citizenships, because all of the countries that they're a citizen of allow dual, triple, quadruple citizenship. And it's really frustrating because like I do want to participate in the democratic process, but I can't because I can get citizenship, but it involves me giving up German citizenship, which is just, that's sort of a weird, like, it's a weird thing to think about anyway, right? Like people who give up citizenship, I know US citizens give up citizenship for tax purposes because the US taxes people worldwide. But giving up citizenship just for like sort of procedural reasons, like, you know, I'm German, right? Like I can't deny that. Like both my parents are German. What sort of sense does it make for me to give up German citizenship when I will be German? Whether I have citizenship or not, I will be German until I die. Like what goal is Germany, the country of Germany, trying to achieve by forcing me to give up my citizenship when I am in fact, like, you know, objectively I am German, you know, like what sense does that make? But that's the rules. Yeah, organized locally. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, tons of countries allow dual. Actually, Germany is one of the few that doesn't. So now you get back to that whole thing of, you know, no taxation without representation, right? Like, I've been paying taxes in Australia and I don't get a vote. I mean, I know votes are sort of largely symbolic because hardly any vote is ever decided on one person's vote, but like, I just want to vote anyway, you know. I would just want to make my voice heard, I suppose, sort of thing, you know. And that's, and sort of the follow-on effects of giving up citizenship are like, I would be restricted to a 90-day tourist visa, returning home. Like, can you imagine that? Can everyone in chat actually imagine that? Imagine you are from a place, like undeniably from a place, yet you can only be there for 90 days tops because all they can give you is a tourist visa. How bizarre is that? Yeah, White Shark. So the current, so I think in Germany's case, what also happened was when the dual citizenship laws were reformed, I think about 15 years ago, they actively made it look like the reform was like a good reform and everything was fine now, when in fact the laws that they enacted were that dual citizenship for Turkish people in Germany is allowed from the age of 0 to 18. But at the age of 18, you have to choose. Do you keep German citizenship or Turkish citizenship? So yes, in that sense, dual non-EU plus your German citizenship is allowed in Germany, for example, for Turkish people, but it's not permanent. You're not given permanent dual citizenship. You're allowed to have it until you turn 18, until you're an adult, and then you have to choose, which is all kinds of fucked up. Like, what point? Like, what's the point of that? Like, what problem are people is Germany trying to solve with that? Tell me, any ideas, any theories? See, that's the thing. I talk to people all the time about this weird German law, and even Germans are under, like White Shark is German, right? Even Germans are under the impression that Germany has dual citizenship. Germany does not. For non-EU plus Germany, it does not have dual citizenship in the like normal sense, right? Like the sort of commonly understood meaning of dual citizenship does not apply to Germany. It's not allowed. Hello, 3D Mark. Please spit out a score for me. So last GTs were 635, 635 again. Let's see if we can raise iGPU a tiny bit. Yeah, so my own mother, for example, has been living in Ireland continuously for 25 years and does not get a vote. How fucked is that? Paying income tax for 25 straight years, has never been involved in the picking of the Prime Minister or any other politicians, the composition of the parliament, anything like that. How is that fair? You must be German and German only. I guess that's the justification they go with. I said 1425, but it weird reboot there. Hello, board. I know some other countries do similar things, like India has this concept of Indian descent, so they don't actually allow dual citizenship, yet kids, for example, kids that are born abroad to Indian parents get this little like piece of paper that proves their Indian descent. So even though India doesn't allow dual citizenship, they sort of have this in between state that they allow, which is this sort of Indian descent status, which allows you to remain in India I guess there's some law, like there's some rights that you don't get with that you do get with citizenship. Maybe you can't be prime minister or something, but it's a halfway house. It gives you pretty much the rights that you would care about, like infinite, right to reside in that country, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, let's try 1450. I don't know what's going on with IGBU clocking here. Render test. Yeah, it's so weird. Why do we have national borders at all? Let's just get rid of them. We're all one people, right? Like when people are like complaining about too much money being spent on asylum seekers or whatever, like just knock it off. Like we're all one humanity, like no one's life is worth more than someone else's life, like just help people out. Like it's not even that expensive. Like someone who has nothing, who owns nothing, who comes to a new country with nothing, just give them something, like just a little bit. Like we can definitely afford it. That's another one of those big lies being perpetrated around the world, is the fact that we can't afford things. Oh, like Australia, one of the richest countries in the world. Oh, we can't afford asylum seekers. We can't afford like whatever roads. Bullshit. Of course we can afford it. Same in the US, same in Germany, same in every place I've lived. That discussion certainly got a bit heavy. Let's see if I can clock this. Otherwise, I might have to end the stream. This is the only board I've got for this chip, so I hope I can work it out. I hope I don't have to flash back to another BIOS. What's it even doing? Like it's like it's hitting some sort of power limit or something. I seem to recall I'd like to scale off of SOC. Let's try that. But that's a really, really dim memory from Country Cup 2019. By the way, all of your Europeans, I sincerely hope you all stay safe with with whatever is coming around, like winter coming around, rising cases and all that. We're still lucky here in Australia to be pretty safe, but I know the situation in Europe is not so good in comparison. Yeah, wow, it really feels like old technology now. Like I do like first and second gen, but now that I'm sort of coming back to it after a break, it's a different kettle of fish. Definitely. Come on, sysinfo. Yeah, I'll have to do off stream. I'll have to do a few runs, like with hardware info in the background, and see like, is there some sort of like voltage spike? Do I need to adjust LLC? Like, why is it failing so early in the run? Come on, give me a GT or two at least. Just black screen. Alright, that'll have to be it. Cheers all. Thanks for joining the stream. Thanks for watching. Always nice hanging out with all of you. Next stream might be the new year. Got a lot of work on. Yeah, I can't promise anything before the new year, but I am keen to try out my new camera when it arrives. But anyway, almost 11 o'clock at night here. Have a good day for you Europeans, and talk to you next time, whenever that is.